Canmore is a small but busy town located in the heart of the Canadian Rockies, set alongside the banks of the Bow River. However, when it comes to photography, it can be often overlooked for its more famous cousin BANFF, which is situated about 20 minutes upriver. But there are some incredible images to be had in this quaint mountain town. And there is one spot in particular that offers some of the best, but goes relatively unnoticed. It's hard to compete with the likes of nearby Lake Louise and Moraine Lake. However, here you can capture full colours, mountaintops and perfect reflections without the crowds. Even on a crisp fall morning, you can get this underrated spot to yourself. I'm really not sure what keeps people away from Quarry Lake. $20 to park here now. It used to be free. To be fair, this parking charge has only come in the last maybe 3 years, but I don't feel like I have much choice because I need to be here for quite a while. Otherwise it's $150 for the day. So I think 2 hours for $20 is probably enough, eh? So join me as I try and capture as many compositions as I can in this one location. So the reflection of the mountains is probably pretty similar to Rundle Forebay just down the road. But it is much shallower here and a little bit more sheltered. So I feel like if you're not getting reflections over there due to wind, you come over here and you normally do. And you can see as well, we've got these really nice trees set right up against the edge here, just kind of singular trees. So those make for some really good shots as well. And we can also shoot a little bit more towards the Three Sisters from here. And again, getting that reflection. But lots of leaves in the foreground right by the edge of the water here. You've got the nice rocks over here as well, which you can use for foreground. And as well as obviously all of those trees right on the edge. And then that big reflection. So it's a really cool spot. There are so many composition options here that, to be honest, I'm actually finding it pretty hard to know where to start. But I think I've got a little shot here that I quite like. It's a little bit of a tighter crop, but I really like this kind of yellow tree here. You can see just on the edge of the lake here, just kind of out on its own. And then we've got Harling as well, just to the left of that. So I'm just using those two elements to kind of balance each other in a portrait shot. And that is going to be my first image of the day. I am using a polarizer as well, just to get a little bit more saturation in the foliage. But I think that'll be a nice little shot as well. And I mean, it's great that the sun's come up, but because the reflections are so good at the moment, I feel like there's still a lot of photography to be had, even though that light is getting a bit harsher. Kind of being both blessed and hindered by these ever-changing conditions. We've got a fair amount of cloud today, so the sun is drifting in and out. But you can see the sun is lighting up this kind of strip of the kind of yellow trees, the aspens and the poplar trees. But we've also got this cloud that's just come in through here over the mountains. So I'm kind of shooting a bunch of different shots to get moving in these clouds, moving in the clouds above, and also waiting for the light to hit those trees really nicely as well. And then I will combine the best combination together of light and clouds. So that was my second shot here at Quarry Lake. Bit of a generic composition, just a big wide landscape shot of the full reflection. But to be honest with you, just because that reflection is so good right now, those clouds are so good, I didn't really need to get fancy with it. I'd normally try and get some kind of interesting foreground or something on an image like that, but it just didn't need it. Composition number 3 at Quarry Lake. I'm pretty much in the exact same spot I took that last one, but I've got down low and I'm now using some foreground that I said I wasn't using in the last shot. But there's just such a nice pile of kind of leaves here, yellow and browns, right in the foreground, right by the edge of the lake. And then we've got that reflection again behind us here, which is still perfect due to the shallowness of the lake. I have to say that I'm pretty stoked with how this morning's turning out. I actually sat in the car at Rundle Forebay this morning and texted my girlfriend saying, I think today is a bust. I don't think I'm going to get any shots. I don't think I'm going to film. I might just come home. And then I just waited an extra 10-15 minutes and the cloud just lifted. And like, obviously this shot would be better if there was some really amazing light on the mountains behind, but because the composition itself is just so nice and the autumnal colours are so good and the reflection's perfect, I think it kind of holds its own without that light. I thought I'd just show you the technique that I'm using here as well. It's kind of like a circular polarizer blend, I suppose. So you might be able to see on the back of my camera here, as I have got the polarizer on the lens, but if I disengage it here, you can see we're getting more reflection, but not as nice colour on the leaves just here. And then if I twist it to engage it, I'm going to get less reflection, but I'm going to get much more colour on these leaves. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to shoot both of those. I'm going to shoot one with the polarizer on for the leaves, and then the polarizer off for the reflection, and then combine them together to get the best of both worlds. Just going for a little walk around the lake now with the 70 to 200, just using it to isolate and pick out reflections along the edge of the lake. Like I said, there's so many different trees with kind of full foliage on them right now, but there is so much to shoot here. I'd highly recommend getting down here if you're ever in Canmore coming to shoot. It's often an overlooked spot because again it's a man-made pond, but there's not really anyone here. I'm the only photographer here this morning and I'm getting some really good images. Quarry Lake honestly just keeps on giving this morning, and I found another really cool composition just around the other side of the lake here. You can see in front of me here I've got these really gnarly windy tree roots. I've got a little pile of yellow leaves here as well. Some of them were there already, but I may have added a few more, sorry. And also obviously that great reflection just in the lake as well. But I'd say this really is one of the most underrated photography spots in Canmore. I don't come here that often. And a lot of photographers don't, but it's well worth a visit. I've only made it halfway around the lake so far, but yet again I've been met with a great composition. When you come around to the other side of the lake here, you've got obviously still the full colours and all the yellow trees sat along the lake edge, but then we've got a different mountain range. This is the edge of Lady Max on the right hand side there, and then we've just got that perfectly reflecting in the lake as well. I think I'm going to have to come back here at sunset as well because I know some of those mountains are going to get some light tonight. My original plan was to shoot a bunch of different locations in Canmore in one day, but I'm having so much fun here, I think I'm going to have to come back here tonight. I've just spent the best part of maybe 2 or 3 hours shooting around Quarry Lake this morning. Hopefully I haven't got a parking ticket, but I think there's still more compositions down there, and it'd be really interesting to see where the light hit later on this evening because I've never been there at sunset. Kind of missed out on sunrise there this morning because it was so socked in and just raining really heavy that it wasn't really worth it. It's approaching sunset, so I'm heading back down to Quarry Lake now. I didn't fancy paying $20 again, so I've actually found that there is a little bit of free parking before 9 AM and after 6 PM where you can then just walk down to the lake, and it's only about a 5 or 10 minute walk. So it doesn't work for a lot of situations if you want to go to the lake and go for a swim or a picnic, but to shoot sunset and sunrise, I think you can kind of make it work without having to pay, which is nice, because $20 a time or $150 for a day is pretty ridiculous if you ask me. Now, one good thing about Quarry Lake is, obviously like we found out this morning, there's kind of compositions all the way around the lake on every single side. So realistically, you can shoot in any direction, kind of north, south, east, west. So it's a location that's going to work at sunrise and sunset. And if I spin you around right now, you can kind of see that there is a nice little bit of light kind of coming onto these mountains over here. So the main thing I was hoping to do this evening was to get a couple of those shots from earlier, but with better light. So it's a real catch-22 at the moment because I've got better light on some of the mountains in the background, but because it's later in the day, the lake is much more ripply. There's wind coming through. And I know those ripples will die down when the sun comes down and there's not as much warmth. Often the warmth from the sun will ripple the lake and the wind will come with it. But once that dies down, I'm not going to get the light. So the chances of me getting both of the things that I need is probably pretty slim. but we'll wait it out and see what happens. We got the reflection back for just a second then, but the wind has picked up again. So unfortunately, I don't think I'm going to get that combination of kind of perfect reflection and some light on the mountains. I mean, the light's all gone now anyway, unfortunately, but I cannot waste these conditions. There is so much potential here. I'd say I've got more pictures from here this morning than I would get, and kind of more compositions from here this morning than I would get at Moraine Lake or Lake Louise or one of the more famous lakes. So I cannot let these full conditions go to waste. So I'm going to be back, and I'm going to be back really soon in the hopes of getting that perfect combination of light and reflection. Told you I'd be back. So it's sunrise right now back at Quarry Lake, and walking in from the car this morning I was actually a little bit worried that we weren't going to get any reflections at all. It's not very windy right now, but there was a lot of rippling on the lake at the other end over there. As I touched on the other day, the section of the pond closer to the car park behind me is really shallow at the moment, and it's quite shallow at this time of year normally. So this is still, and I'm still getting reflections. Yeah, well, you just wait and see if we get any light. And then I think I'm going to do a bit of a loop around and see as the reflection comes in, as the light comes up, see if I can get some of those shots from last time but with better light, and see if I can find even more compositions. Just kind of walking around the lake like a bit of a madman now. Maybe I've made a bit of a mistake. The light's actually coming from the opposite side from what I thought. But I'm not really sure. Am I going to get anything today? I think I'm going to head back round to that reflection. That was probably one of the most frustrating sunrises I've had in a long time. So sunrise is at 7:45. There was no colour in the clouds really at all. And then you kind of cross your fingers hoping that, oh, the sun will break through the cloud and we'll get some golden light on stuff. And honestly, almost nothing happened. And then I hung around for a bit longer. And then at 8:30, 45 minutes after sunrise, we suddenly got like a little bit of light, and then 10-15 minutes later the wind picked up and it was gone. That was it. But I did get some shots, and I got some new shots compared to when I was here yesterday as well. One of those shots was just a kind of generic reflection shot, but there was a lady stood in a red jacket just on the edge of the lake there, so she kind of pops just in the corner, just tiny, but the red really makes her pop and stand out. So I kind of like that, and it's a good comparison to what I got last time. And I also managed to find a new bit of foreground here in the way of this little log, and that little log actually caught a good bit of golden light as it came through the clouds, a little bit of soft light, and I used that in the foreground, and obviously my reflection with the yellow trees in the background. So almost a very disappointing morning, but I did manage to get some shots. So it goes to show the versatility of this little location. Say, even on a morning when the light's not really playing ball, there's still some options. There's that little sheltered area of water just down by the car park end of the lake. And because you're able to shoot in pretty much any direction, you can really work with the light as it comes and goes and just move around the lake and shoot what you need to. So let me know what you think of those images. Let me know what you think of the ones at sunrise. Were they better than the cloudy ones of the day before? And hopefully that's inspired you to get out and shoot here if you're in Canmore or in the kind of BANFF Canmore area. If you have any questions about the location, leave them in the comments below. And if you've made it this far through the video, thank you for watching. I really appreciate it, and hopefully I will see you on the next one.